Welcome to Daily Variety, your daily dose of news and analysis for entertainment industry insiders. It's Thursday, October 9th, 2025. I'm your host, Cynthia Littleton. I am co-editor-in-chief of Variety alongside Ramin Satuda. I'm in LA, he's in New York, and Variety has reporters around the world covering the business of entertainment. On today's episode, Variety's Tatiana Siegel discusses her deep dive on Bari Weiss and what Weiss's new role as editor-in-chief means for CBS News. And we'll hear from Variety's veteran international correspondent Nick Vivarelli on the pulse of the media biz in Italy as he covers the Rome media market. But before we get to that, here are a few headlines just in this morning that you need to know. Megyn Kelly has cut a rich, multi-year deal with SiriusXM to host her own channel. She will continue with her flagship daily show and add other new titles. It's all flowing through her Devil May Care Media production banner. Taylor Swift is busting through album sales records once again with Life of a Showgirl. She now claims the biggest first week of sales ever for an album, more than 3.5 million units across physical product sales and streaming. The previous record holder was Adele for her album 25, released in December 2015. Don't miss Owen Gleiberman's great review of what sounds like an awesome feature documentary from director Robert Gordon, Newport and the Great Folk Dream. It's culled from hours and hours of footage shot during the pivotal years of 1963 to 1966. You might call it a prequel to A Complete Unknown. All of these stories and so much more can be found on Variety.com right now. Now we turn to conversations with Variety journalists about news and trends in show business. Tatiana Siegel, Variety's executive editor of film and media, discusses her deep dive on Bari Weiss and what it all means. There's still a lot of uncertainty at the Tiffany Network about who's in charge of the news division. Tatiana Siegel, thanks for joining me.
Happy to be back.
We send you on the toughest missions. No name has been on people's lips like Bari Weiss, who is a known personality in East Coast journalism circles, and she has just been tapped by CBS News for this newly created editor-in-chief role. That came with Paramount acquiring her digital media startup, The Free Press. It's fair to say the industry has been obsessing about Bari Weiss and her new role at CBS News. Tatiana, as you set out to make sense of all this, what did you find?
People have very strong opinions about Bari Weiss, both very good and some negative. She elicits a strong response from people.
There was a lot of chatter about this deal, and that it was formally announced at the start of this week. Paramount said they're bringing in Bari Weiss for her perspective, bringing a perspective that they clearly feel was missing within the larger CBS News organization. Tatiana, what is the lens that Bari Weiss brings that Paramount has been so eager to install at CBS News?
I think that is the $64,000 question. What are her politics? How will they be injected into the content and the news and the newsroom? And that's where I got a lot of differing answers. I think there's sort of a knee-jerk reaction that Bari Weiss is center conservative / contrarian. She's been vocal on social media and elsewhere about Israel. And so people will say, oh, we think this is what transpires at CBS News. But other people that I talked to said that Bari is actually very independently minded, would not work with somebody because of their politics. She is somebody who comes from the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times after that. She's obviously worked in a newsroom with differing opinions. I think the Ellisons see Bari Weiss as somebody who can shift the way things are done without losing journalism altogether.
Let's talk about the Free Press. It was launched in 2021. The Ellison's appear to be responding to the impact that she and two other founders had in launching this. Do you think the Free Press had really made a mark in its few years in operation?
I think it did. It was talked about, it was cited, they definitely broke news.
There was a number attached to this deal early on, long before it became official, of 150 million as the price tag for the Free Press. Knowing what I know about digital media businesses, I struggle to see how that valuation was reached, but I know you did dig into that, Tatiana. What do you think is going on? Is that a real number?
It's impossible to say if it is a 100% real number because there's so many factors that go into it, but based on people I talked to that knew what they were talking about, I was told that Free Press brought in somewhere between 15 and 20 million a year in revenues. It wasn't just a website or Substack. They also had events. There were other components of whatever the money making was there.
So Barry, now going into CBS News, has the title of editor in chief. There's also a CBS News president in Tom Sabrowski. Do you have any sense of what Barry's role is going to be?
I think that that is still, to some extent, being worked out. She will report directly to David Ellison, so it's not like there's a layer above her other than the owner. I think that is where some of the trepidation is with who is in charge here.
Right.
And I don't think that is fully known how that works out because you can have people on paper being the one in charge, but do they have the final say on hirings, firings, contract renewals? The best sources that I talk to seem to say that their understanding is Barry will have a voice, but not the only voice.
Let me close by asking you your sense of David Ellison and what he wants to see out of CBS News. I read very carefully his memo that he put out in announcing the deal. He's saying all the right things in terms of what he wants CBS News to be. What is your sense about what people there think in just the few months that he has been the big boss?
It's still a big wait and see. I think people have no actual idea because, unlike the film industry, which can look and point to David's work as a producer slash financier of films and see how, deep politics make its way into Top Gun or movies he's worked on and have an answer. There's no answer on the news front. This is really brand new territory.
And as always, news organizations are tested when there is big news to cover. So there will be a lot of scrutiny, much to watch, and much to cover. Thank you, Tatiana, as always, for taking on the hard ones. Now we switch our lens to Europe and the Rome media market, which is also known by the acronym MIA or MIA. Nick Vivarelli reports that topics generating buzz among buyers and sellers at the event include AI, co-productions, and the tighter coordination of how TV shows and movies are rolled out between linear and streaming platforms. Nick Vivarelli, our man in Rome for many years. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Cynthia.
You're based in Rome, and for a change, you're covering a big market that happens to be in Rome. Been a very active MIA market this year. Give us some background in terms of what MIA is and what its importance to Italy is.
MIA was set up 11 years ago, and it was set up because the Italian industry felt there was something missing. And what was missing was a major market in Italy, which Italy used to have, which was the MiFed market in Milan. At some point, roughly 20 years ago, it was taken off the map, basically, due to the fact that there was a change of dates on the part of AFM. Americans didn't really want to come to Italy that much during that time of year, and so the market just collapsed. So sometime later, the Italian industry regrouped and they launched this market. What makes MIA unique is the fact that it's dedicated to product that is not finished product. So it's in various stages of either development or production, but it's seeking a piece of its financing. And so it's a place where basically you can foster European co-productions.
This does draw the biggest players, and people they really are doing business here.
Oh yeah, you have all the bigger players in Europe. Like you have Fremantle, you have Banny J, you have all of the streamers, you have Sony Pictures Television. So, the level of executives that are coming to Rome is top level.
Is it fully organized by the Italian government, or is there a third-party entity that runs it?
This is fully financed and organized by the Italian government. They make it a very pleasant experience. It's set up in central Rome. The main hub is a combination of a beautiful National Arts Gallery where they set up stands. Some of the stands are just in the midst of the museum under Renaissance paintings. And connected to that is a multiplex movie theater, which is very state of the art, where they can have either screenings or panels. There's a beautiful garden. There are lovely restaurants. It's right near the Via Veneto of Dolce Vita fame.
You are painting such a picture. Nick, you're in the thick of it now. So far, what have been the themes? What have people been talking about as you've been walking around these gorgeous settings?
Well, one of the themes, unsurprisingly, has been artificial intelligence. And there's a new dedicated section on AI.
Would you say, is the attitude fear, or is it like we need to understand this? What's the attitude toward AI?
The head of Sky Studios in Italy, Niels Hartmann, said that it's something that we have to face, and we have to face it fearlessly. And we definitely have to come to terms with the fact that content creation is changing. So I think the attitude is we can't just pretend that it's not there.
One headline coming out of Mia that caught my eye is that original content commissioning by Italian TV and film companies has dropped considerably, 12% in the last year or so. How was this news received?
This is a trend that we're seeing worldwide. There is a bit of a slowdown in terms of commissioning. On the positive side, the commissions for unscripted are rising. For example, Amazon Prime Video has diminished the number of scripted shows, but they've actually increased the number of unscripted.
And Nick, you had mentioned to me that there's going to be a very starry executive visit from Netflix to button up the week. What are you expecting from that?
Well, it's a nice coincidence that this year's Mia coincides with the 10-year anniversary of Netflix launching in Italy. Ted Sarandis is going to be in Rome tomorrow to announce an agreement between Netflix and an Italian institution. We don't really know anything more than that at the moment, but I do think it's significant that he's going to be here.
What else do you think people are going to be talking about through the rest of the market?
In the panel yesterday where they gave all the facts and figures about Italian TV, one of the things that was discussed was the crossover now between public broadcaster, between Rai and Netflix, where they have a show called the C Beyond that launches on the streamer that's connected to Rai. That's where they launch it first. Then it goes in prime time on Rai's linear channel, and then it goes on Netflix. So there's this synergy between linear and streaming, and also between the public broadcaster and Netflix. And I think one of the things that people are talking about is how to work within this new world where you have streamers that are connected to linear broadcasters, and there's just new business models connected to that and new ways of conceiving shows.
You know, I look at ABC, CBS, NBC, they all have some version of that setup. Nick, as ever, thank you for covering all of this stuff in real time for us. Ciao.
Ciao, Cynthia.
And now we'll get a bulletin about Friday's episode of Variety's Strictly Business podcast from Andrew Wallenstein. Andy is my longtime colleague, my dear friend, and he is co-host of Strictly Business. Andrew Wallenstein, thanks for joining me.
Good to be with you.
Andy, you are overdue for being on. We started in July, and Daily Variety is a full-fledged spinoff of Strictly Business, the weekly interview podcast series that you and I launched for Variety back in 2018.
It's great to see Daily Variety evolve. It feels like a true sibling in sensibility to what we started with Strictly Business, and I'm looking forward to continuing to watch it grow.
You and I have been colleagues a long time, and we have a lot of similar interests, and that's what has made Strictly Business such a great partnership. And now we've opened the doors, and a lot of colleagues are also contributing episodes. And for the last bunch of years, Andy, you headed up a data unit within Variety called the Variety Intelligence Platform. Earlier this year, you transitioned that team over to another division of our parent company, PMC, called Luminate.
We, while originally were Variety Intelligence, we have since rebranded as Illuminated Intelligence, but largely doing the same analytic work about the entertainment industry, putting out monthly reports and daily commentaries. Only now we've got exclusive Luminate data.
You will definitely have to come back and talk about some of your reports, but you've popped on today because you've teed up a very special episode of Strictly Business for the October 10th release. And it was an interview that you eagerly pursued for a very specific timing.
I realized that it was 20 years ago this week that a deal I consider a true landmark in the digital entertainment space, when Apple and Disney came together to put prime time TV shows like Lost and Desperate Housewives on iTunes, or more specifically on the video iPod. And luckily, I was able to get Anne Sweeney, who at one point was one of the most prominent executives in Hollywood, presided over a wealth of TV assets from ABC to Disney Channel. And she was the one who really drove this deal. And so we didn't just want to explain what the deal was about, but to give people a picture of this period 20 years ago when there was no Netflix streaming. YouTube was barely in its infancy. So it was really groundbreaking in terms of bringing premium entertainment to digital devices in a way no one had before.
And I love that she is so candid and so forthcoming about the circumstances, the competitive dynamics. Listeners, it's a terrific listen. If you're a fan of Daily Variety and Strictly Business, you're going to love this because Andy really takes Anne Sweeney beat by beat. So thanks so much for pursuing that and bringing it to Strictly Business, Andy.
Absolutely. Looking forward to coming back on the show when we've got some other good stuff to share.
As we close out today's episode, here's a few things we're watching for. The great Liv Ullmann will be honored by the European Film Academy at the European Film Awards in January in Berlin. I'm heading off this weekend to the MIPCOM Content Market in Cannes, France. It's a packed schedule of speakers and should be a very busy week on the Croisette. You'll hear all about it on this podcast next week with reports from me and my colleagues, including Elsa Kaslassi, Variety's international editor. Before we go, congrats to Shannon Buck. She's just been named Executive VP and Head of Communications and PR for Paramount's Direct-to-Consumer division. She's an alum of Netflix, NBC Universal, and Starz. And one more thing, happy birthday, John Lennon and Sean Ono Lennon. Imagine. Thanks for listening. This episode was written and reported by me, Cynthia Littleton, with contributions from Tatiana Siegel and Nick Vivarelli. Sticks, Nicks, Hick Picks. Please leave us a review at the podcast platform of your choice, and please tune in Monday for another episode of Daily Variety.